It doesn't matter whether you can appreciate the care with which the world of Ridley Scott's 1979 original film has been replicated, but one of the highest compliments you can pay Alien Isolation is that this uncompromising and nerve-plucking game is just as good even if you don't know much about the source material. Over the years, all of the movies, spin-offs, comic books and video games have steadily diminished the creature's fear factor, but that first moment when the xenomorph does arrive, unfurling itself from a dark ceiling duct and rising into imposing 9 foot in height, the sheer terror of the situation completely seizes you and refuses to loosen its grip for the entire game. And that was one of the main questions being asked of Alien Isolation when it was getting produced. The big question was that, can this project sustain the fear factor over the entire length of the single player campaign? In my opinion, it definitely does, and even before the alien actually emerges, the sense of foreboding is immeasurable. This is partly down to the absolutely impeccable recreation of the Sevastopol ship. The sound design is also incredible. The derelict ship basically groans and clangs. There's disintegrating husk pieces floating around and outside the vacuum of empty space. The corridors are barely lit and its air conditioning system always ominously rattles, and it really creates just an unprecedented atmosphere. When the alien does appear, there's a enhanced sense of claustrophobia as you have to hide in lockers and in air ducts, and you'll be peering through them and have to hold your breath as it passes, eventually crawling through the shadows, trying to keep any sign of motion on your motion tracker, waiting patiently for the monster to move to a safe distance before you can safely progress. The alien isn't the only threat, however, and aside from humans and the alien itself, there are malfunctioning androids that take forceful means to keep the facility operational and stop the ship's walkways, ready to hunt down anyone who gets in their way. Get locked into combat with one of these androids and you'll quickly find that their AI adapts to your playstyle. They'll catch your arm as you attempt to bludgeon them into a milky puddle, or they'll maybe even lure you into a false sense of security by rolling out a more durable model in the game's final act. Most of the humans are hostile as well, and they'll fire their gun at the first sight of Amanda, as they're just trying to survive. These gun-toting survivors are obviously in immediate danger, but later in the game they'll serve as a distraction for the alien, and it's really satisfying to lure the alien into the path of these other humans and see it feast on them whilst you make your escape. One of the greatest things about the game is the way the alien AI studies your actions and adapts accordingly. And whilst some gadgets can be maybe overly useful, like the flare or noisemaker, the xenomorph doesn't get fooled very often and will learn. For example, it might wait in a vent above a door that it knows you need to get past. So basically there's not one strategy that's guaranteed for success, and this keeps the game fresh and always exciting. And the alien is extremely deadly and an adversary that will repeatedly get the better of you in a variety of grisly death scenes. Some of them feel slightly cheap and inescapable, such as the terrifying sight of it charging towards you in the air vent. You know, there's no way you're going to get away from that. But more often than not, your demise is due to your mistakes. If you fire a gun, sprint when you shouldn't, or try and leave the torch running for too long, this can all make you susceptible to a very swift and instant death attack. It's a very punishing but very gratifying system, and occasionally it'll feel a little cheap, but never enough to ruin the game.
They're armed. Too many of them to take on.
Take on?
We still got to get through there. The door at the end.
There are a variety of weapons in the game, like pistol, shotgun and flamethrower, and once you pick up the flamethrower, things do become slightly easier, as a quick jet of fire is usually enough to deter an attack from most enemies. And the ammo probably isn't scarce enough on normal anyway, that you can't rely on it for, you know, long stretches of the game. Craftable items like flashbangs, EMP mines, Molotov cocktails and flares and noisemakers are basically used as distraction aids, but again, you rarely find yourself without enough materials to at least craft a couple in a pinch. So those looking for a true survival experience might want to play it on hard, where the resources are stripped back and the AI is cranked up a notch. But even on normal, it's still a hefty challenge laid across the 20 or so hours of the campaign. So what is the actual story, you're probably wondering? Well, the plot basically involves you, Amanda Ripley, Ripley's daughter, searching the Sevastopol space station for the black box recorder of her mother's missing ship, the Nostromo from the first film. And this offers a gap between the original film and the first sequel. The backstory to the station's descent into chaos plays out through the sickly green hue of the computer monitors and is told through email exchanges and audio recordings that you'll find throughout the game. Details of these reveal how bureaucracy drove rifts between the employees and economic downturn caused ruinous fortune to the lives of those on board the Sevastopol. Where the game really offers some fan service though is in the Nostromo logs that you'll find throughout the game, which are voiced by the original film's actors. These are often found concealed across the multiple towers of the station, and the Metroidvania structure of the game encourages you to go back with the right tools and explore the rooms behind every sealed door. While the geography of the station is relatively intuitive, there's more that could have been done, I think, to make the map a bit clearer. It's also curious that viewing the map screen pauses the action, considering that the game constructs so much of its design around tension. It's just a small quibble that I think they could have changed to make the game even more tense. Ultimately though, Alien Isolation has delivered much of its promise as an unforgiving thriller that refuses to pull any punches. Isolation reaffirms Alien as the ultimate horror icon. It's both terrifying and awesome, and it'll trap you within a feeling of claustrophobia and sheer terror. It's bold and really very scary, and I just feel as though Isolation is a triumph in every department. No prior knowledge of the films is really necessary, but prepare yourself for one of the most terrifying games you'll ever play.